welcome to Whispers of Ink. I'm Machado de Assis, and now I will read one of my stories.
Let's start with the book The Astrologer, which is part of my novels collection. Chapter 1. Custodio Mark stood out as the finest market inspector this city had ever seen. If you judged by the way he worked his focus, his passion, you'd think the job wasn't just a duty, but a calling. He lived across from the cathedral's sacristy during the short time the Count of Azambuja held office. He was about 45 years old, a strong man, full of energy and purpose. Merchants feared him more than any other official. The streets had never seen a more watchful eye. While some are born to lead and others to follow, Custodio was born to be a market inspector. That was his mission, his life's work. But like many good things, his sense of duty went too far. Whether by nature or habit, he crossed the line. He started checking more than just scales and measures. She started checking people's lives. He cared not only about weights and measures, but also about how people behaved. Within months, he became the most curious and informed man in town. He knew more about what went on behind closed doors than anyone else. Even his godmother, a devoted woman known for her prayers and for never missing a rosary meeting, had to admit she was no match for him. "But dear godson," she said one day, wiping her eyes with a cotton handkerchief made by José Luis from the Rua da Vala. No, let's be fair. I used to think I missed nothing, or at least very little. But I must say you're much sharper than me." Custodio smiled modestly. "I still don't know everything I want to know, godmother," he replied. "There's something that's been on my mind for 15 days now. And believe me, I haven't been idle." "What is it, dear godson?" she asked, blinking with curiosity and eagerness. "Is it about the romance between Sergeant Major Fagundes and the sister of that merchant from Rua da Quitanda?" "Oh, that's old news," Custodio said, shrugging with a hint of boredom. "I've known about that for ages. The brother of the woman had caught wind of it too, and sent word to Fagundes to mind his own children or risk a beating with a stick. All nonsense from the merchant, really, who didn't know the sister was still alive, not long ago." "Quiet, you. Go on, friend." "No, I won't say anything. It's almost noon, and my beans are waiting for me at home." The reason given by the tax collector held only one truth: the timing. It was nearly time for lunch. But the real reason he cut the conversation short, which was happening at the doorstep of Donna Engracia's house, was that Custodio Marx had spotted, from a distance, the tall figure of the visiting judge. Custodio said goodbye to his neighbor and followed the judge's path. When he was about 8 paces behind him, he slowed his pace and put on a look of complete distraction, so convincing that no one had ever copied it before. He looked at the ground, peeked into the shops, glanced behind him, stared at everything, except the man he was secretly watching. Yet, he never lost sight of him, not for a second, missing every move the judge made. Meanwhile, the judge walked down Rua da Mãe dos Homens toward Rua Direita, where he lived. Custodio saw him enter his house and turned back toward the street. "Damn," he thought. "He must have come from there, if he visits during the day at all. But where exactly? Oh well, maybe next time." The tax collector walked quickly toward home, though he paused at every corner to scan the cross streets with his sharp, lynx-like eyes. Once he arrived, lunch was indeed ready. It was a truly Brazilian meal, untouched by the delicious French influences brought by modern civilization. At the table joined Dona Esperança, Custodio's daughter, and Dona Joana da Purificação, his sister. Since Custodio's wife had passed, Dona Joana took on the role of managing the household. Dona Esperança had the most beautiful black eyes in town. Perhaps someone had prettier lips, or shinier hair, or clearer skin, but not many. She had eyes, certainly, but not just any eyes. When it came to beauty, Esperança could stand beside the most celebrated young women in the colony. Her eyes were black, large and expressive, and they had a particular way of shooting glances sharp enough to bring down even the most skilled warrior. Her aunt, who adored her deeply, treated her like a queen, showering her with blessings and affection. She played the roles of mother, servant, and teacher, all in one. She took Esperança to church, to processions, and to every festival, especially when her brother, due to his official duties or other informal obligations, couldn't go with them. Esperança kissed her father's hand before leaving, and he looked at her with eyes full of love and dreams. His dream was to marry her off, and not just to anyone, but to the nephew of an important judge, a man from one of the most respected families in town. Many young women, and even some widows, would have been happy to call him their husband. The almotasse Custodio Marquesade not yet managed to win the young man's affection for his daughter, but he was trying hard. One thing that gave him peace of mind was that he had found no sign of any romantic interest from the nephew toward other girls. For now, at least, there were no rivals to fight. But Esperança had her own plans, very different from her father's, and she was already thinking of ways to make them come true. While she felt no attraction to the judge's nephew, her heart leaned strongly toward another young man, the son of the local apothecary, José Mendes. His name was Gervasio Mendes, a boy she had secretly written letters to and whispered with at night by the window. When her father was out chasing his own affairs, and her aunt was busy playing cards with the church sacristan. This 4-month-long romance showed no sign of fading, no matter what Custodio dreamed up. After blessing her and finishing dinner, Custodio went to rest for half an hour, as was his habit. Later that afternoon, he went to play backgammon at the nearby apothecary's shop. The apothecary, whose talent for the game far surpassed his skill in mixing medicines, beat everyone, his opponents and his customers alike. The only difference between the two men was that for the apothecary, backgammon was the goal, while for Custodio, it was simply a way to pass the time. The fingers moved swiftly, and the almotasse Custodio Marx mixed sharp remarks from the game with a flood of questions. Some direct, others cleverly hidden, all aimed at uncovering what he needed to know. The apothecary, for his part, didn't hesitate to share any news he had. That afternoon, though, there was nothing new to report. But there was a favor to ask. "Senhor Custodio," said the apothecary, "you could do me a great kindness." "What is it?" asked Custodio. "It's about those lots near the lagoon. You know how the city council wants to take them. Even though they clearly belong to my son Jose, if the visiting judge could lend a hand, it would mean a lot. And since you and he are such good friends—" "Friend? I am, yes," Custodio replied, clearly pleased by the suggestion. "But let me tell you something about your son." "What is it?" the apothecary asked, curious. Well, I know everything. Everything about what? Oh, come now. I know that when the Count of Cunha was organizing the auxiliary infantry regiments, your son Jose wanted to become an officer but didn't get the post. And when he realized he might be forced into the regular army, he went straight to that Spanish woman who used to live on Rua dos Aurives. You don't say, the apothecary replied, surprised. That's right. He threw himself at her feet and begged for her help. She took a liking to him and, I won't go into details, but it was she who gave him the money to buy a redemption privilege for the captives. That's how your son avoided wearing a uniform. What a scoundrel. He told me it was Canon Vargas who helped him. Well, Custodio added, this didn't sit well with the few people who found out. One of them is the visiting judge. A strict man despite everything. Custodio paused, swallowed the rest of his sentence, and rephrased it gently. Then he stood to leave, promising he'd at least speak to the judge. And sure enough, by evening, he was already at the judge's house. The visiting judge treated Custodio with unusual respect. To him, Custodio was more than just a friend. He was the perfect cure for loneliness, a man always ready to help with whatever pleased him most. Right away when he came in, the master of the house greeted him with a grin. Hey there, come on in, Mr. Spy. Why were you following me for such a long stretch today? Custodio Marquez turned pale, but the moment passed quickly. What else could it be? He replied with a smile. That thing I told you about not long ago, remember? Recently? Yes, sir. I've been trying to find something out. He paused and gave a sly look. You, who've always had such a soft spot for young ladies, must have some kind of secret story by now. It's impossible otherwise. Really? The visiting judge chuckled. You think so? I'm sure of it. And I'll uncover it too. You know I've got a nose for these kinds of things. Unless you swear to me. I won't swear anything, because there's no need. But I can save you the trouble. I live discreetly, as everyone knows, and I have my family duties. Oh, come on! Custodio cut in. All that goes out the window the moment a pretty face appears. And it must be pretty, no doubt about it. You wouldn't fall for just any woman. I'll find out what's going on, don't worry. And whatever I find, I promise it'll die with me. I've never been the type to go around blabbing. The visiting judge laughed heartily. Soon after, Custodio changed the subject and brought up the apothecary's son. Truth be told, he didn't care much for the topic, but he felt a bit of guilt for shifting gears so suddenly. Still, he couldn't deny a certain pride in showing Jose Mendez, his neighbor, that he had some influence. That pride sharpened his tongue more than he had planned. Their conversation was cut short by an officer who delivered a message to the visiting judge from the Count of Azambua. The judge read the note from the viceroy and turned slightly pale. Custodio noticed the change right away. His sharp, curious eyes locked onto the judge's face, studying every detail. The judge told the officer he would not delay in following the viceroy's orders. Some silly annoyance, I suppose, Custodio said, trying to sound polite and understanding. It's all part of the job. No one can escape it. Does your honor need me? No, sir, Custodio. If you do, don't hesitate. You know I'm never happier than when serving you. If you need a message delivered, anything at all. A message, the judge repeated, as if he truly needed to send one. Say the word, and it shall be done at once. The visiting judge paused for a moment, then shook his head. The city official had no choice but to leave his friend and protector. It was just past 9 o'clock. The visiting judge got ready to answer the viceroy's call. 2 slaves, each holding a lantern, walked ahead of him down the street. Meanwhile, Custodio Marx turned toward home, without a lantern, even though the judge had insisted he take one. The lantern was no help to the city official. If public street lighting introduced only during the reign of the Count of Resendehad depended on the people's vote, one could safely say Custodio would have voted against it. Darkness was one of Custodio Marquis' greatest allies. He used it to eavesdrop at doors and catch lovers whispering by their windows. But that night, more than usual, his mind was fixed on the viceroy's summons and the effect it had on the visiting judge. What could it be? Custodio kept thinking about it, paying little attention to the rest of the city. Still, he managed to catch whispers of a secret meeting of rosary devotees at the barber Matas' house. They were plotting to overthrow the current board of the Brotherhood. He also saw 5 or 6 men leaving the home of Donna Emerenciana on Rua de Quitanda. He already knew that place was used for gambling every night. One of the men, from his voice alone, seemed to be the son of José Méndez. So that's what that rascal's been up to, Custodio muttered to himself. But he was mistaken. At that very moment, Gervasio Méndez was saying goodbye to the lovely Esperanza, whom he'd been speaking to at her window since 7:30. Gervasio wanted to keep talking, but Esperanza, the Almotasi's daughter, begged him to go. It was time, she said, because her father would be back soon. Her aunt, meanwhile, had grown angry after losing 5 or 6 rounds to the sacristan, and swore, by the holy arrows of the martyr saint, never to touch a deck of cards again. But the sacristan, a man of calm and wisdom, shuffled the cards with quiet grace. He softened Donna Joanna's anger by reminding her that luck comes and goes, and that the next round might just as easily go her way. Between the cards and the saint's arrows, Donna Joanna chose the path that seemed least painful. Gervasio too gave in to Esperanza's pleas. Most of all, she said, don't stay angry at my father for what he said. Oh, if you only knew what it was, Gervasio interrupted. It was a lie, a cruel one, so low I can't even repeat it. Insura Zenhor Custodio Mark didn't make it up himself, he just passed it along, and that was wrong. But because of him, my father threatened me today with a beating, with a stick. A beating me. And all because of Senhor Custodio Mark. But he doesn't wish you harm. How should I know? He doesn't, the girl insisted gently. Sure of it? Well, maybe not. But with the plans he has for you, if he finds out you care for me, then you might give in and marry him. Me? Me? Never! I'd rather become a nun. Swear it. Gervasio. Then came a kiss so loud it made Donna Joanna lift her head. The sacristan quickly explained it away, saying it sounded like a cricket chirping. At last, the cricket Gervasio left the sweet Esperanza's side. He had barely reached his room when Custodio Mark returned home. Everything was calm. Donna Joanna was packing up the card game. The sacristan was saying his goodbyes, and Esperanza had gone to her bedroom. The Almatase said his prayers and fell asleep in the peace of the Lord. The paleness on the magistrate's face probably didn't leave the reader's mind either, and just like the Almatase, you're surely curious to find out what caused it. The Viceroy's letter was about a matter of state. It was short, but it ended with a line that hit the magistrate like a thunderclap. It may be that the service of His Majesty will require your lordship to take a journey lasting several weeks. Come to me at once. If the magistrate had to leave for this unexpected duty, the Count of Azambua mentioned, a love story would be interrupted just as it was getting good. This story had started about 2 months earlier, and starred a charming young widow of 26 summers. The widow came from the province of Minas Gerais. She had come down to the capital to personally deliver some papers she wanted to present to His Majesty. But during her stay, she got caught up in the polite and affectionate attention of the magistrate. She rented a house near the Ajuda convent and stayed there supposedly to visit the city. Their romance quickly grew in size. The plot thickened, descriptions became more vivid, and events multiplied. The story had the look of a long series, maybe even a multi-volume saga. So, asking the magistrate to leave the capital for weeks at that moment was no small demand. It was asking the impossible. Imagine then, the poor man's state of mind when he left the Viceroy's office. What urgent state matter had caused that late-night summons, I don't know, and honestly, it doesn't matter. What matters is that for 3 full days, not a single smile touched the magistrate's lips. But on the 3rd day, joy returned to his face, brighter and more natural than ever before. You probably guessed it. The need for the trip had vanished, and the love story could go on without interruption. The Almatase was among the first to notice this sudden change. He had been deeply worried by the magistrate's sadness, but now he was just as troubled by his sudden cheerfulness. I don't know what caused your lordship such sorrow, he said, but I hope to show you how happy I am to see you return to your usual good spirits. The magistrate had indeed told his daughter that it was only right to give some small gift, something from her own hands, to the visiting judge. With luck, this man would soon become family. Custodio Marque did not notice the blow those words dealt his daughter. He had to leave at once, called away by his official duties, and so he went, leaving her heart full of sorrow and fear. Meanwhile, the judge's joy was growing stronger by the day, and the romance was heating up fast. So sure of himself was the happy magistrate that he began to forget the usual caution he had always shown. One afternoon, around 6 o'clock, the magistrate happened to pass through Rua da Ayuda. He saw the judge leaving a fine-looking house. The sight made his ears perk up. His sharp eyes lit up with hope. Could this be a clue? As soon as the judge was out of sight, Custodio drew near the house, almost sniffing the air like a dog on a trail. Then he went to the nearest shop, where he learned that the house belonged to the charming young widow from Minas Gerais. He could not have been more pleased if he had just won a council seat or received a gift of 400 slaves. I've got the thread, he told himself. Now I just need to follow it to the end of the maze. From that moment on, nothing else could hold the magistrate's attention. Day and night he watched the house in Rua da Ayuda with rare determination and skill. He was so clever in his spying that within 5 days he knew everything. Some careless slaves helped him along. Once he had the full story, he hurried to the judge's home. Juve finally arrived. The judge cried when he saw him walk in. "Did your honor send for me? 2 messengers have been looking for you for the past half hour. I was busy with your honor's affairs." "Is that so? Didn't I tell you I'd find something out?" the magistrate said, winking. "Something?" "Yes, that very thing. You know what I mean?" "I had a feeling you wouldn't let me down," the magistrate added. "I don't understand." Custodio Mark grinned as he pressed the point of his knife against the curiosity of the magistrate. "You don't understand, Your Honor," he said. "But, Mr. Custodio," the judge replied, "tell me everything." "Whatever it is, I'm sworn to secrecy," Custodio said. "So I won't say a word to anyone." Of course, there was something going on. I kept my eyes open and finally found the girl. The girl from Rua da Ayuda. Is that so? Yes, it's true. I found her a few days ago, but I didn't come right away because I wanted to be sure. Now I can tell you, sir, I approve. She's very pretty. So you've been following me around? Your Honor, you must understand I meant no harm. But, Mr. Custodio Marx, I've been sending for you everywhere. About 3/4 of an hour ago, I learned that your daughter ran away from home. The tax collector jumped in his seat. His small eyes widened. His mouth opened, but no words came out. "She ran away," the judge continued, "according to what I've heard. And I believe. But with whom? Where?" Custodio finally managed to ask. "She left with Gervasio Mendes. They're heading toward Lagoa de Centilla." "Doctor," Custodio said, "I beg your pardon, but you know well, you know." Go, the judge said. Custodio couldn't find his hat. The visiting judge handed it to him. "Hurry. Don't forget your cane." The tax collector grabbed the cane. "Thank you. Who would thought? Never in my life did I imagine that my daughter and that scoundrel. Just let me get my hands on them. Don't waste the time. I'm going. But before he left, the judge added, "You know, there's a story about an astrologer who was watching the stars so closely that he fell into a well. A Thracian woman saw it happen and said, if he couldn't see what was right under his feet, why should he study what's so far above?" Custodio would have understood the fable had he been able to hear it. But he didn't hear a word. He ran down the stairs 4 steps at a time, panting like a bull. As still running.
Thank you for listening so far. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like our channel and click the bell to be notified whenever a new book is read. Have you heard of Machado de Assis? Machado de Assis, born in Rio de Janeiro in 1839, is considered one of the greatest writers in Brazilian literature and a master of psychological realism. He was a novelist, poet, playwright, and short story writer whose works explore the complexities of human behavior with irony, subtlety, and deep introspection. Among his most famous novels are Dom Casmurro, which questions truth and memory, and the posthumous memoirs of Bras Cubas, a satirical narrative told by a deceased man. Machado's literature often reflects the contradictions of Brazilian society, addressing issues like race, class, power, and identity in a sophisticated yet accessible style. Despite being born into poverty and facing racial prejudice, Machado de Assis rose to become the president of the Brazilian Academy of Letters and a symbol of literary excellence. His sharp wit and profound observations about society and the human soul make his works timeless and universally relevant. Today, he is recognized not only as a Brazilian icon, but also as a world-class author whose legacy continues to influence generations of writers and thinkers. Machado de Assis shows us that literature can be both elegant and critical, intimate and universal, humorous and profound. His stories remain as powerful and thought-provoking today as they were more than a century ago. Machado is a treasure of world literature, and through his voice, we discover the infinite layers of the human experience.